Iran has campaigned relentlessly against a normalization accord between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Many observers see the massacres of October 7 as Iran's way of blocking normalization. But as our senior diplomatic correspondent Owen Alterman says, Saudi Arabia still has good reason to want to normalize ties with Israel, and Saudi officials are confirming that. Take a listen.
It was only 6 weeks ago. Only 6 weeks ago when Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu strode the stage at the United Nations General Assembly, and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman sat for the cameras and touted the promise of normalization and the reason why ties are a must.
I believe that we are at the cusp of an even more dramatic breakthrough, an historic peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia.
We hope that it will reach a place that it will ease the life of the Palestinians and get Israel back, as a player in the Middle East.
There, bin Salman on Fox News Channel's special report. The Middle East has changed, of course. Feelings toward Israel are now out in the open, fully. And war is not the time for peace. But a steady stream of indicators points in one direction. On the day after, Riyadh wants normalization done, because much has not changed.
Before 7th of October, a lot of de-escalation have happened, which brought a lot of hope for the region, and we don't want the recent events to derail that. So we are making a lot of efforts with our partners.
Saudi Arabia still would want a defense pact with the United States and still would want to pursue its Vision 2030 to the end. That vision has Saudi Arabia pivoting from an inward-looking religious hotbed to an outward-looking liberalized power. The outside world will be skeptical. Mohammed bin Salman needs to convince it. To show he's serious, to show he's really serious, there is a path to take. And it leads through Israel.
Well, to talk more about that, we're joined now by Abdallah Al-Junaid, Bahraini columnist and geopolitical analyst. Great to see you, Abdallah. Also with us, Fleur Hassan Nahum is the Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem and the co-founder of the UAE Israel Business Council, and commentator Amir Oren is with us in the studio as well. So, Abdallah, has Iran failed in its campaign to derail the normalization process between Israel and Saudi Arabia?
To start with, Laura, happy birthday.
Thank you so much. Who told you? Thank you, Abdallah.
And let's hope that you're next. It's going to be a different world for all of us.
Let's hope so, inshallah.
Okay, I'm having a problem with the sound. There's a lot of echo.
Can we fix that? Is that better for you, Abdallah? Can you hear us?
I'm hearing the studio.
Okay.
The back.
Abdallah, hang tight. We'll try and fix that for you. Let me bring in Fleur. Fleur, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, Fleur. So I'll ask you the question. Has Iran failed in its bid to derail closer ties between Israel and Saudi Arabia?
Look, they've given it a good shot, but I think that what in fact was the catalyst for the Abraham Accords, apart from thinking together as a region for the future of our children, of prosperity and peace, but we face the same threat. Iran is a threat to Saudi Arabia. Iran is a threat to the UAE and to Bahrain and to any normal country in the region that want as an agenda the advancement and the peace and the prosperity of the country, and not fundamentalism, radicalism, and taking us back 500 years. As we know, in the Gulf, at least the UAE and Bahrain have done great work in pulling out and pushing out the Muslim Brotherhood from amongst them many, many years ago. They've also moved forward and taken out incitement of Israel from their curriculum. Saudi Arabia did it 2 years ago. Now, there's a pattern here, and the pattern is that they've realized that the region is split into two, and they want to be on the side of good and not on the side of radicalism and destruction. And so in that sense, this is a failure for Iran, but they've given it a good shot. We have a lot of the Arab street, which is still very sympathetic to the Palestinian cause, What I try to tell people is, if you're sympathetic to the Palestinians, the last thing you want for them is Hamas to be their rulers in Gaza.
Abdallah, I hope you're back with us. Can you hear me? Thank you, Fleur. So, Abdallah, would you agree with that? I mean, Saudi Arabia said, didn't it, that part of the reason it wants closer ties with Israel is to improve the lives of Palestinians. It would appear at this stage they're holding steady to that pledge.
We've been there. We discussed this. Definitely, the Saudi position hasn't changed, and will definitely, I assume, and actually, I don't assume. I believe strongly that Saudi Arabia will push forward with regard to seeing a closer relation with Israel, leading to the bilateral recognition. But again, what we need to understand is one thing. It's not just what is needed on the part of the Saudis. Also, we need to look into what is needed on the part of the Israelis. The Israelis need as well to make steps, like what we heard just a few minutes ago from your Minister of Defense, Gallant, when he was asked about releasing funds to the EIPA. He said we should, because they are our partners in countering certain aspects of stability within the West Bank. Again, what we also need to see, while we have, as Flora said, while we have eradicated Islamic fundamental, current within our societies, unfortunately, we're seeing the growth of nationalistic, far right wing in Israel. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll tell you very frankly, it is a worrying factor. We're going to continue developing relation with Israel for the mutual benefit of the region as people, but you need to fix your politics as well.
Okay, thanks, Abdallah. Amir, and I'll put that to you. Can Israel restrain its far right?
It's Newtonian physics 101. For every action, there is a reaction. When Netanyahu boasted that the Palestinians do not have a veto over the larger regional process, some Palestinians, namely Hamas, came out with murderous weapons. Now, if one wants to help the moderates, as Yoav Gallant just indicated, one can also, at the same time, hit the extremists. But this is not Netanyahu's plan. Netanyahu doesn't want to compromise with the Palestinian Authority. He wants to bypass them. And as we just heard from the Gulf, this will not do. And the U.S. administration will not let Netanyahu do it. What we heard from Gallant was really a taunt at Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister. And the Israeli electorate must decide whether it is for a Smotrich or for a leader left of Gallant and definitely left of Netanyahu.
Fleur, would you like to come in there? I mean, there is an accusation, a suggestion that the hard right in Israel has suppressed moderate Palestinian voices, and we need those Palestinian voices now to rebuild after Hamas is destroyed.
I don't fully agree, because the pay-to-slave policy that has been led by the Palestinian Authority, Fatah, basically paying life pensions to people who kill Jews, did not come about in the last year of this government. It's been there for decades. The indoctrination of the educational system in the Palestinian Authority, which actually Hamas considers it good enough for their school system as well, has been there, was an Oslo commitment to stop the incitement, to stop the Jew hatred, to stop the obsession with martyrdom. That hasn't been taken out of the curriculum. It's got nothing to do with this current government. So let's not paint a rosy picture to the things that were going on before. This is the 5th Gaza war. The other 4 happened with the previous government and the one before that. So let's not paint a rosy picture of what was here before. What we've had here is the complacency of the entire world funding also the Palestinian Authority with this toxic educational system and pay to slay, and the entire world funding Hamas, knowing full well that they were taking the money and building an underground terror network rather than building schools for their children. So let's not pretend that that wasn't going on for years already.
All right, Abdallah, the hard right government was a reaction to the reality on the ground in some ways, and I think it's interesting to note also that the UAE and also I believe Saudi Arabia, they have worked to remove references to anti-Semitism in their school books. They clearly believe that is something important. Do you think that that is has been a long-term problem on the Palestinian side?
Let me get back to one point of what Flora said. No, I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture or give absolution to the PA from any responsibility. I believe all of us collectively need to believe that we can change. But Flora, since you have dissected the whole scene so intelligently, why didn't you pick on the point where Netanyahu have facilitated and carried money directly to Hamas since 2019 until today? Where does that fit? Isn't it
Absolutely, I agree with you. I agree with you. That was the wrong policy.
All right, why don't Abdallah finish your point?
No, why did you drop that point?
Fleur, would you like to?
I'm not dropping the point. I believe that the world has funded Hamas to create what they've created.
Abdallah, one moment, if you please, Abdallah, one moment. Let Fleur respond.
I agree with Abdallah that Israel has aided and abetted the irresponsibility of what the world has done with Hamas. We've helped. Absolutely, Abdallah. I agree with you. I'm not taking away any responsibility. But what I'm saying is that it's not the government of the last year that has caused this immense reaction. This has been building up. Iran in the background as the puppet master for many, many years. They've been trying an attack of this scale for 11 years.
Amir Oren, if you'd like to come in there.
And what about the 16 years of Netanyahu's rule?
Well,
I don't see how that has anything to do with Hamas arming themselves. In 2005, Israel left Gaza Strip.
And you don't see that, how marginalized the PA because of Netanyahu's policies.
It makes no difference. Israel has had the same policy in terms of the PA for the last 20 years. It's the same policy. Yeah. Ultimately, in the Gaza Strip,
one at a time, if you please. Fleur, finish your point, and then Abdallah, pick up.
We left the Gaza Strip in 2005, and Abdallah, the Gaza Strip could be Dubai, could be Manama, and instead they turned it into Beirut. That is also the fault of Netanyahu's government.
Abdallah,
what do you think? Who said? Was it me who was saying this now, or was it Netanyahu through the leaked videos and statement when he said we have to make sure to secure finances and the stability of or the control of Hamas over Gaza, while at the same time marginalize the PA? Was it me? Was it Hamas? Or was it us when you said certain finances was coming to Hamas? None of us in the region have contributed a penny to Hamas. All the money was carried through by suitcases through the Shin Bet and Mossad. Go back to Cohen, the previous Mossad director. He apologized for making for Netanyahu implicating the Mossad and being partner in financing or carrying the finances. You need to start with yourself. Don't push the blame on somebody else.
okay.
Not pushing the blame on somebody else. I think Israel understands that we had the wrong policy for Hamas.
Fix it.
The money was not coming from Israel, it was coming from Qatar, but that's another story.
Well,
and the point
you.
is that this horrible incident has everybody woken up to the fact that we can't keep paying protection money to Hamas to keep them quiet. That was the wrong policy. I agree with you, but I don't think that it's this government or 2 years ago's government or 4 years ago's government that is responsible for the incitement and is responsible for the building of the terrorist infrastructure. Everybody should look in the mirror. I agree with you, Abdallah. Everybody should look in the mirror.
This is a typical political.
All right. Well, Abdallah, I think sorry to interrupt. I think the point that Fleur is trying to make is that Israelis have suffered from terrorist attacks for decades, not just over the past few years, and prior to the Netanyahu government as well.
I agree, but we need to change the realities. To change the realities, we need to engage each other. We need to sit candidly and put framework to achieve something. Well, you wanted to ask me why the Saudi Arabia Defense Secretary is in Riyadh, why Blinken is coming on Friday. I believe he's carrying back certain messages from Saudi Arabia related to the bilateral relation between you and the Saudis, to the Gaza, 3 Yemen. And Israel better start listening. If you want partners, you need to share in the blame and work with us as partners as well to find solutions.
Okay, Abdallah, let me bring in Amir Oren. Thank you, Abdallah.
It's ironic that 60 years after Israel covertly helped Saudi Arabia when the Yemenites had their own rebellion, Flossi, Front for the Liberation of South Yemen, Abdul Qawi Makawi, forgotten names, when Israel airdropped supplies to the royalists. And then now we are coming full circle. Israel will hit back at the Houthis, and we'll probably, we will see MBS smile at it. Now, there is no perfect solution. When Israel resisted a compromise, a great deal with King Hussein of Jordan, it got the PA. If it is not going to have a deal with the PA, it will have Hamas to contend with. It is time to get to a realistic two-state solution and progress from there to the relationship with Saudi Arabia and not vice versa.
All right, Fleur, if you'd like to come back in there. Whatever happens, Fleur, at the end of this, we in Israel and those in the Gulf do share a common enemy now, and we do have to work together.
Well, we've always shared a common enemy, and that's one of the reasons why the Abraham Accords came to be. And I agree with Abdallah. I think Israel has a lot of hard questions to face itself. But I, again, reiterate that we're only going to have peace when the Palestinian leadership stop lying to their people, telling them constantly that one day we're going to kick out all the Jews, throw them to the sea and get the whole thing back. If they can be realistic, if they can put down their arms, then we can really sit down and talk about potential solutions. Until that happens, until they stop training their children that the best thing they can do with their lives is become suicide bombers and die as shaheeds, then we have a big problem. It doesn't matter what government is in power. We're going to face
Abdallah, are you denying the Palestinians agency?
I believe strongly what we need, again, I agree with Flora, if we have to make a change, we need as well work on the narrative. And Flora was paying attention to what Dr. Ali Naimi said yesterday. With everything is going on, he said, first of all, the Abrahamic Accords are here to stay, and Israel is here to stay, and we're going to fix this. This is what need to be done. At the same time, if we're going to make the PA accountable, let's start by demanding, first of all, a real and serious, fixing of its working. And we need as well to provide a certain support and governance over its finances. It's not going to be spent or diverted to private accounts in certain countries. And if we have to, I believe all of us collectively need to go after those money quiches that belong to the Palestinian leadership and bring, it is misappropriated. Let's bring it back and put it for the good use of the Palestinian.
All right, Abdallah, thank you very much. Great to hear from you, Abdallah Al-Junaid, Fleur Hassan Nahum in Jerusalem, and here with me in the studio, Amir Oren as well. Thank you all. A very interesting discussion, many big challenges ahead that I'm sure we will get to in more detail. Well, that's it for this hour. Do stay with us. Kalev Ben David is up next with all the very latest. This is I24 News. We're coming to you live from Tel Aviv. Stay with us.